this March City Council meeting of the City of Sugar Hill to order here. I'll be taking the place of Brandon Hembry tonight. He's got some personal matters, so I will be filling in as Mayor Pro Tem. At this time, we'll go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance, and I will ask Council Member.
Wisdom, you give us blessing. Season of winter, provides. Help us we go through this meeting, be with those that are here and those that could not be. In your name we pray.
All right, we'll go down next, and the next is the approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Motion from Council Member Anderson. Second from Council Member Hicks. All in favor? Vote yes. All right, the next one is the approval of the minutes from the council meeting for February 10th, 2025, and the executive session February 10th, 2025. I have a motion to approve from Council Member Hicks.
Second.
Second from Council Member Avery. All those in favor? And the last one is approval of the minutes for the work session of February 3rd, 2025. Do I have a motion? Motion to approve from Council Member Anderson. Second from Council Member Hicks. All those in favor? All right. This month we do not have any official awards, presentations, and proclamations. At the work session, Mayor Hembry did indicate that we are going to be recognizing Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month through our partner and newer business, and we will be hand delivering that. So just keep that on your forefront of your mind. We'll go ahead and hop into the reports, and I will go ahead and ask if the city attorney has a monthly report.
Mr. Mayor, no report for the public meeting.
Thank you. All right, we'll hop into city council reports, and I will go ahead and start with
Thanks, Mayor. Just one thing. It was supposed to be the week that the Youth Council and I were to be in Washington, D.C. for the NLC, but just due to some of the budgetary moves and different things like that, it actually prohibit a lot of the logistical opportunities for us to be able to do that this year. So one of the things that we're working on is trying to figure out how we can get the best use of the opportunities that would have been provided in D.C. Through NLC here locally, working with Mayor Hembry down at the state capitol, and looking at working with some of our local representatives that are here within the state to offer the Youth Council some opportunities to be able to have some of the questions and things answered that they would have had for some of our federal and leaders there in Washington, D.C. So again, that may be something that the Youth Council may provide a little insight into. So other than that, I yield my report.
thank you. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. The Riverlands Authority in February had a good meeting. We swore in our newest member, Samantha Peterson. Mayor Hembry came and swore her in, along with a presentation on our implementation of the master plan and grant opportunities. So it was a very good conversation, very educational conversation, and looking forward to see what fruit is born out of that. And I see our chairwoman, Denise Hurls, here this evening, so we appreciate her being here in attendance. And then we do not have a March Riverlands Authority meeting, so that next time we'll meet will be in April. So that's all I've got, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilmember Avery.
Thank you. I have no report this month.
All right. Likewise, I do not have a March report either. I'll go ahead and ask if the city attorney wants to have any report. City clerk, I'm sorry, looking at Paul. City clerk. Jane, do you have any report this month?
It's okay. Just briefly, the city issued 214 passports this past month. It's a little busy in the passport department. So if you need to renew or you need a new passport, visit our website or call the main number and schedule an appointment. It is by appointment only. We also issued 19 new business licenses last month, which is pretty good coming out of the renewal period. We had 615 out of the 1,041 businesses already renew. And we'll be sending out some notices to get the rest of the businesses to renew or let us know if they're still in business. And as far as training for this week, I'll be going to the county on Thursday to discuss some of the parameters of the election for November, since the county will now be holding an election for PSC members. So we'll kind of talk about who does what during this election, of what the county will furnish and help the city with. So look for a report in the future on that. And that's all I have.
Perfect. Thank you. Mr. Radford, do you have a March report?
Thank you, Mayor. I submit our March in review for everybody who's here tonight or on our website for their consideration for the review of what happened in February and in March. I would, my report was pretty exhaustive during the work session, so I'm not going to repeat that tonight, but I would like to call on Andy McQuigg, our Recreation Director, to give us an update, since the first page of our monthly in review is all about recreation. And then after that, I'm going to ask Avery to come up and just give us a quick snapshot of what's coming up on our city's birthday.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. How's everyone? February was a good month, although cold and a little wet in some places. We had a really good start to our soccer seasons out at the park, finish up on some basketball seasons, restarting some I-9 seasons inside the gym, and things are just going well. Obviously, the ice rink finished a great season again. 23,000+ people visited our downtown for the ice rink season, which is extraordinary. Most of it is picked up. The only thing left to go is the tent, and when we get through a little bit of this weather, the tent will be coming down within the week. And then spring will begin, and the bowl season, we'll get the splash pad ready and get some warm weather and get going with the summer and seasons. The golf course had another good month in February. Shockingly enough, we were closed 50% of the time this time. I think that was about the same in January. However, being closed 50% of the time, it might have been the second largest revenue month that we've ever had at the golf course in February. So it just shows that the trends are going very well. The course is in great shape, and on the days that it can be played, it's played a lot. The E-Center remains crowded with waterfall room and classroom rentals. Gym is always crowded if you've been in there, especially tonight, but most nights. And 39th Street Station remains rented most of the time throughout the week and on the weekends. So the E-Center is doing well as well. So other than that, that's my report. If you have any more questions, love to answer them. Thank you.
Good evening. At this time, we have confirmed 50% of our concert series, and so we are waiting on the other offers that have been submitted, and once we have those approved by the artists, then we are hoping to announce on the city's birthday, which is March 24th. That will be in conjunction with a birthday celebration that'll happen just outside City Hall. We are announcing one of our theater concerts tomorrow with their tour, so you should be seeing that come across your feeds. Those tickets will go on sale this week. Other than that, this past weekend, we had the Broad Street Film Festival. It was very well attended. And then there was a parade in downtown on Sunday. We have some fourth grade field trips coming up that'll be taking place throughout downtown that's being led by Stephanie and the Historic Preservation Society. We have a few races, several theater rentals, and then the Lanier Cluster will be putting on an event, We Are Lanier, towards the end of the month. Other than that, we have the Spring Break Bash coming up next month, and that's our next big community event. Any questions?
Thank you, Avery, and Mayor, that concludes our report.
Thank you, Paul and staff. At this time, I'll go ahead and recognize the Youth Council for any report for the month of March.
Hello, everyone. I hope you all caught up on your sleep after that time change. Locally, Youth Council has been learning about our committees, and we wanted to reach out even more. So Youth Council is excited to go to Atlanta and the state capitol. As of right now, March 27, March 28 are the dates. We think it's going to be a good experience meeting our House of Representatives, learning about the legislative body, and just Georgia as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That does conclude our reports for the month of March. At this time, we will go ahead and open up the podium to anyone who wants to address City Council. Please remember, this is not a Q&A. City Council will not be responding back, but we will be sitting up here and listening intently, of course. We do have several public hearings on the calendar tonight as well. So if you have any comments related to one of those 4 public hearings, we do ask that you reserve those for those particular public public hearings. But if you do want to address anything else, feel free. The podium is yours. Go on once, go on twice. All right, we'll go ahead and close the citizens and guest comments portion of the meeting. We have no items on the consent agenda, so we will move into old business. We have 2 items. I'll go ahead and recognize City Clerk Jane Whittington, if she wants to go ahead and take care of items 1 and 2. Okay. Thank you so much, Jane. I think we're good to proceed with those 2 items. I don't hear any motions or anything like that. All right. So we'll go ahead and hop into new business. The first item on the new business is a letter to County Commissioner Holtkamp regarding the potential Sugar Hill Library. We did speak about this at the work session, and this is regarding just the potential to have a library here in the city limits of Sugar Hill. To our understanding, the Buford/Sugar Hill Library is at end of life and has been for quite some time, and that footprint is actually no longer feasible for the county to go in there, remodel/rebuild to something that they build now. I'm not sure if anyone has ventured down to some of the new libraries. The one in Norcross is a prime example of something that they like to build, and it's a great piece of infrastructure, and that is something that they would like to continue to do as they go out there and remodel these older libraries and really bring different resources to the community in different areas. So at this time, we will go ahead and ask if there's any discussion or any motion regarding that letter. Go.
Just one comment, that this letter is not obligating any city funds or city property. We're simply saying if the county does choose to expand, that we'd be happy if they considered Sugar Hill. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary, for that clarification.
And I just wanted to add just a bit of context to what you've and Councilman Perkle have mentioned. Again, there is no commitment on behalf of Sugar Hill for it, and also by submitting the letter, there is no commitment on behalf of Gwinnett County either. And so, but it does get us on the consideration list for a library for, using current SPLOS, right? So it would be utilized under SPLOS. So I know the mayor and Commissioner Matthew Hochkamp met in the fall of last year to discuss a new potential library in downtown Sugar Hill. So I think there is no in the language of the write-up, but in 2021, GCPL initiated a facilities master plan and mentioned the possibility of a new facility or facilities for Sugar Hill and Beaufort. So just wanted to actually add that context as well. Thanks, Mayor.
Perfect, thank you. Anything else? I think do we need to take an official vote on this to send? Okay, then I'll go ahead and entertain a motion for item number 1 on new business.
I'll make a motion to approve the sending of letter to Commissioner Matthew Hochkamp.
Okay,
Second.
all right, thank you. All in favor of the motion that our council member Hicks has put forth? All right, thank you, Jane. All right, so we'll go ahead and go to item number 2. That is a public hearing regarding ZOA 25001, which is a zoning ordinance amendment. I'll go ahead and recognize our planning director if he wants to go ahead and walk us through that, and then we'll open up the public hearing comment after that.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Mr. Mayor and City Council, the first item we have tonight is the zoning ordinance amendment 25001, and I'll give a little bit of background and be happy to answer any questions. On November 12th, 2024, the City Council asked planning staff to investigate a zoning ordinance amendment that would require a special use permit for the development and approval of apartment houses and dwellings, multiple uses with multiple family uses within the Central Business District and the Town Center Overlay District. In order to provide ample time for the Planning Commission and City Council to consider the proposed zoning ordinance amendment, the City Council imposed a moratorium on development or issuance of permits for apartment houses and dwellings, multiple within the Central Business District and the Town Center Overlay. Right now we have some definitions of apartment house, multiple dwelling, and dwelling unit that we currently have in the ordinance. On February 17th, 2025, the Planning Commission held a public hearing and held a recommendation to City Council. The Planning Commission held a scheduled meeting Monday, February 17th, 2025, and the public hearing was open. There was no comment, and the public hearing was closed, and the Planning Commission members discussed mixed-use designations and zoning classifications as they relate to the recommended revisions. The Planning Commission had additional discussion, and there was a recommendation of 4-0 to approve, to send a recommendation of approval to the full City Council. Mr. Mayor and Council, this would do a couple things. It would delete a section of text, which is currently section 1002.d.4, and will replace it with new language stating multifamily residential shall be limited to mid-rise courtyard building type and minimum floor area ratios and maximum floor area ratios, and also adding additional text that it should be limited to mid-rise courtyard type buildings, again with minimum floor area ratios. Mr. Mayor, there are approximately 7 or so existing multifamily developments that would be considered legal nonconforming that are existing now, and those are there that way if there was a loss of those structures that they could be replaced at the same density that where they currently exist. And the last thing is deleting section 1002D.6, which is mixed use, and replacing section 1002D.6 with the following text, and then that goes into mixed use language. I'm happy to read that, but that does come with a recommendation from the staff as well as the Planning Commission. We're happy to answer any questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Art. Counselor, is there any questions of Art at this time? Okay, hearing none, then we will go ahead and open up the public hearing portion of this. Do you have any? Okay. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing portion of this. Both sides do have 10 minutes to speak either in favor of this potential amendment change or opposing it. We will go ahead and start with the side who is in favor of this, if there's anyone at this time. And I'll go ahead and ask our counsel if they can time it tonight. But is there anyone at this time that would like to step up? To step up and in favor of the zoning ordinance amendment. Okay, is there anyone here tonight that would like to speak in opposition of the zoning ordinance amendment? Okay, we will go ahead and close out the public hearing for ZOA 25001. And at this time, I will go ahead and entertain a motion for the zoning ordinance amendment.
Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve ZOA 25-001 for the purpose of requiring special use permit for apartments and multiple dwellings in the Central Business District and Town Center overlay.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. The motion before us is to approve ZOA 25001, the zoning ordinance amendment as written. Any debate regarding this item before us? Okay, at this time, we'll go ahead and ask for the votes in those in favor of this amendment. All right, thank you so much. We'll go ahead and move to the next item on our agenda, which is also a public hearing for the Town Center Overlay Design, public hearing for the special use permit 25001. And I'll go ahead and once again recognize our planning director to talk to us about that one.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor and Council, the next item we have is a request for a special use permit which is SUP 25001 at 4725 Nelson Brogdon Boulevard. The City of Sugar Hill received an application December 9th, 2024 from Mark White for a special use permit to operate an official Georgia vehicle emission station. The subject property is currently zoned general business for BG. The subject property is presently zoned BG, is a gas station and convenience store, and presently located on the parcel. The parcel is located along a major traffic thoroughfare and is surrounded by commercial and industrial uses. The space for the proposed vehicle emission station is currently vacant. Previously, use of the space was used as a car wash. Traffic would be directed to the rear of the building for access through the unit. Vehicles would exit through the front, and no exterior improvements or additions will be required for the operation. And vehicles registered in Gwinnett County and the 12 counties in the metro Atlanta area that are required to undergo annual emissions inspections per the Georgia Clean Air Force statute. On February 17, 2025, the Planning Commission held a public hearing and recommendation. The Planning Commission did recommend approval by a vote of 4-0 to recommend approval of the application. And this does come with a recommendation of approval from both the Planning Commission and from the staff. Mr. Mayor and Council, you can see the parcel outlined in red. Just to give a point of reference, if you're familiar with where the Kaiser Health facility is located, this is the gas station convenience store that's almost next door to it. Here again, you can see the the property in question that's outlined in kind of a lavender color, and then the current zonings that surround it. This is a site plan of the existing store. You can see outlined in kind of a dark pink color the area that would be used for the emissions testing. And the council saw these pictures at the work session. And just a little bit of follow-up from the work session, there were a couple of questions in regards to the status of the property. The codes enforcement officers did visit the site today. They did notice some cosmetic things that could be done. And we're also going to be checking in to see about any ponding issues since it was raining earlier today. And we're happy to work with them and our folks at Stormwater to see if there's anything that needs to be done with that. This is, of course, an existing building, and if you're familiar with the property is below road grade, so there will just always be some natural runoff there. But the staff is happy to work with the applicant owner to make sure that any improvements that need to be done, we're happy to put them in contact and work with them. So I just want to give a brief update. And that is all we have for the council right now.
Thank you, Art. Any questions for Art at this time? Okay. We will go ahead and once again open up the public hearing regarding SUP 25001 for the Vehicles Emissions Station. Once again, we will allow 10 minutes per side, 10 minutes in favor and 10 minutes in opposition. And at this time, once again, we have the clock started. Anyone who is in favor, the podium is yours to speak in favor of this item on the agenda. And this is also the time if we want to invite the applicant, if they're present. And just state your name and address for the record.
My name is Mark White, 5070 Sunset Drive. Just got to say that my name is Mark White, automotive technician for like 25 years. The emission station is pretty much self-explanatory as far as the benefits for the community, you know, emissions and smog, stuff like that. Other than that, I spoke with the owner. He spoke on it. I did speak with the owner myself about the improvements of the parking lot. And he did not have any rebuttal about it. He said it would help me. So that's all I really have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else here tonight that would like to speak in favor of this? Okay, we will go ahead and open it up to anyone who would like to speak in opposition. All right, we will go ahead and close the public hearing for SUP 25001. And at this time, I will go ahead and entertain a motion for item number 3 on our agenda.
All right, I make a motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion. Second from Councilmember Hicks. The motion before us is to approve item number 3 with no substitutions or amendments. All those in favor? Are any debate, questions, comments, concerns? So sorry. Thank you for bearing with me. All right, all those in favor? All right. Thank you, Jane. Next one, we have our number 4 public hearing, Town Center Overlay Design Review for 1085 Whitehead Road. And once again, I will recognize Art.
Yes, sir. The next item we have, again, as Mayor mentions, 1085 Whitehead Road for design review within the Town Center Overlay, number 25-002. The City of Sugar Hill received an application from Jonathan Stanley requesting design review board approval for a rear addition to an existing residence and attached garage located within the Town Center Overlay at 1085 Whitehead Road. The subject parcel presently hosts a single-family home, detached home, with 2 detached garages. 2 additions are proposed, an attached 2-car garage on the side of the house, finished in material and color similar to the existing residence. A 4-foot breezeway connects the garage with the residence. In addition to the rear of the existing residence of approximately 600 square feet with an 8-foot rear porch, materials and colors will be similar to the existing residence. The existing driveway includes a concrete circle drive and a gravel portion leading to the existing detached garage to the southwest of the primary structure. This garage is proposed to be demolished and replaced with an attached 2-car garage. The proposal does not include improvements to the gravel access drive. The proposed garage will be located approximately 20 feet from the side property line. A minimum setback of 10 feet is required, in the RS-150 zoning district for accessory uses. The staff recommends approval of the site plan and buildings and material and architectural detail with the following conditions. The final design shall substantially resemble the attached exhibits labeled Exhibits 1 through 4, and all materials and colors shall match those of the house. Mr. Mayor and Council, you can see the subject parcel outlined in a kind of a teal color, with the property being zone RS-150 with that zoning, and BG and OI zonings being adjacent. The existing home. A survey of the property. And here are elevations of the proposed addition. The rear, left, right, and front elevations. And here's somewhat of an overhead view. Mr. Mayor, I believe there was, at the work session, there was a question as to whether or not any variances would be needed. We've checked. They meet all the required setbacks, so no requested variances. Staff recommends approval of the DRB request.
Thank you, Art. Council, any questions of the planning department at this time? All right. We will go ahead and once again open up the public hearing portion for TCO design review at 1085 Whitehead Road. Once again, 10 minutes for both sides, and if the applicant is present tonight, I'm not sure, we'll let them go first for in favor, if they choose to. Or anyone else who would like to go and speak in favor of this.
I'm Faye Sisson, 5107 Sunset Drive. My house is about 10 houses down from this little cottage remodel. She did an excellent job. It's a charming, charming house. I'm sure that the addition will be the same. She does wonderful maintenance. I think it would be in the interest of everybody who lives along Whitehead to have it approved.
Perfect, thank you. Anyone else speaking in favor of this item tonight? All right, anyone speaking in opposition? Okay, we'll go ahead and close out this public hearing. And at this time, we will entertain a motion for item number 4 on our agenda.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve TCO Design Review 25-002 with the 2 recommended staff conditions.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. We have a motion to approve item number 4 as written on our agenda. And at this time, we'll go ahead and take the votes in the affirmative. All right, unanimous. All right, we'll go ahead and hop on to number 5 on our agenda, which is the roadway improvement contract award. We will give Art a break here, and we will recognize Troy to take that one for us.
Thank you. I believe I connected. There it is. This is project 25-003. This is roadway improvements for city streets. This is associated with the Local Maintenance Improvement Grant Program from Georgia DOT. It's also funded by our Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax Program. And we budget this project at about $1 million a year. And we are currently looking for some additional funding from Georgia DOT, which will be released here pretty soon. I think the governor just signed the amended budget. So we'll look for that as an update to this project in the future. That project and the bid documents associated with it was advertised back in January. There was a significant amount of interest on the part of the paving contractors in the community to address needs on these 15 streets. There are about 3 miles of improvements we're proposing to make on these city streets, with the lengths, widths, and overall limits of the contract on the screen there. It may be a little difficult to read. And there were 17 plan holders that requested bid documents. These 13 responded back in February, and the low bidder was determined to be Triple R Paving and Construction. They are currently out of Morrow, Georgia, and we did verify references. We had gotten bids from 2 or 3 others that had successfully won bids in previous years, like Garrett Paving, Georgia Paving, Sunbelt, and Blunt Construction. Baldwin Paving was another one. We've worked with many of these on the list, so the Triple R was a new one. We did verify the references from City of South Fulton, from Morrow, and a couple of other places to verify they were satisfactorily able to complete the projects in those communities, and they were. There were 4 of the bids that were under budget, under the $1 million budget, and this accomplishes a little over 3 miles of improvements to roadways. At the work session, Mr. Perkel asked the question about how many roads, how many miles of roadways are city maintained, and they're just over 76 miles. I don't have the exact number. We update it annually, and we're about to do that and send that to Georgia DOT, so we'll update that at a future meeting. But that gives you an idea of where we're heading. These streets that we are proposing to address in this contract are the worst of the worst. So we do want to investigate in a subsequent contract pavement management and pavement preservation methods that are a little bit different than overlaying with asphalt. So with that, we are recommending approval of the award of the contract to Triple R Paving and Construction in the amount of $862,860 for the 2025 roadway improvements project, and authorization for the mayor to sign the contract. This is a unit price contract. I think that question came up last year, so should we choose to add some other roadways to the project in the future with additional funding, we can do so by change order.
Thank you, Troy. Council, any questions for Troy?
One question. At the work session, I believe you mentioned we'd also be replacing street signs as necessary with this. I didn't hear you say that tonight, or I might have overlooked that or not heard that.
We do that in-house, so that is not part of this contract.
But it's still going to be considered at the same time. Yep, thank you.
Go ahead.
I just have one question that I forgot to ask last week about this contract. Has our city attorney reviewed this contract?
No, but they have reviewed a previous iteration of this contract, so we will ask him to sign it before the mayor signs it. So I think if you wanted to modify the motion, it could read subject to final legal review.
All right, any other questions of Troy? Okay, then we'll go ahead and entertain a motion for item number 5 on our agenda.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to award the construction agreement with Triple R Paving and Construction LLC of Morrow, Georgia, in the amount of $862,860 for the completion of the 2025 roadway improvements project, and authorize the mayor to sign the contract upon legal review and acceptance.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. We have a motion before us. Any discussion or debate? Okay, all those in favor? All right. We'll go ahead and go down to item number 6, which is readopt policies for the Livable Centers Initiative, which is also, I'll go ahead and recognize our Assistant City Manager, Troy.
Thank you. This one is related to funding for a trail project that connects the trail as it currently is proposed to end at Peachtree Industrial and Highway 20. and connect it to our downtown near the east end of the E-Center and the bridge that will cross Highway 20, the pedestrian bridge, I should say. And so this one, just because of the funding mechanism associated with it with federal funds, and because it's administered by Georgia DOT, we have to agree to abide by their procedures and policies associated with things like procurement. The procurement is the main one, which just indicates that during the design phase that we will abide by the Brooks Act, which says you will use a qualifications-based selection process to engage design consultants for this project. We've already done that, but this just says we will do it. And we have to regularly tell them we are doing it. So this is something we'll do probably one or two more times before the project gets under construction, just because of the length of time it takes. So because this is federally funded, there are a number of other steps to take in the process, and I'll just use an example like the last agenda item related to paving. This one is going to stay within existing right-of-way, but we still have to go through the environmental documentation process, which is a step that we wouldn't normally take on a project that is within an existing developed area or developed condition. So that's one example, and so there are some that are embedded in our design contract with our prime engineer. And then the other one is Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which basically says we will not discriminate based on the approved, or the prohibited designations in the Civil Rights Act as currently amended. We have set this up in the past, and this just says we're abiding by it. We do include that in all of our contracts that we award, so that is one that was actually in the last agenda item as well, is an agreement from our contractor saying they will not, or they will abide by Title VI, and that we have as well. So this is the agenda item associated with that. There are actually 3 documents that are attached to the memo, and that indicates what we're indicating in there. We do want to recognize that there are a number of staff that are involved in this process. One is Curtis Northrup. He's our capital projects administrator who works for me. And then Art has a couple of staff members that are going through the regular and recurring punishment of having to sit through long training programs with Georgia DOT, and Logan is one of them, and then Nicole, I believe, is the other. So we've got 3 staff that are responsible for engaging in this and staying up to date on things like design, contract acquisition, but also right-of-way acquisition, should that be necessary.
Perfect, thank you. Any questions of Troy at this time? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to readopt the following policies in order to maintain eligibility for the federal highway funds, and authorize the mayor or city manager to sign as required.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion on this motion at this time? All right, we'll go ahead and ask for all those in favor of this motion. All right. The next item on the agenda is the HVAC equipment replacement for the E-Center, and once again, I'll recognize our Assistant City Manager, Troy.
Okay, we are not ready for this item for consideration tonight. We recommend it be tabled.
All right, thank you. Do we hear a motion after staff input?
I'll make a motion to table.
All right.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor? All right, thank you. Our next item on the agenda is the green space and right-of-way dedication. Once again, I'll recognize Assistant City Manager Troy Basesh.
Okay. As a part of the Novair project, now called Conclave, I believe, they had taken a look at a property that was to the east of their developed area and recognized that it would not necessarily benefit them to develop this as a future project, and wanted to donate this tract to the city. There is a portion of the greenway that runs through this property. There are some advantages for us being able to maintain it, get to it, access it by way of ownership, fee simple ownership rather than easement acquisition. This tract is some 4.46 acres and does extend all the way from the Greenway Trail on the left of this image all the way out to Peachtree Industrial Boulevard to the right of this image. And then to the south and left of the south and bottom and left of the image is Stanley Street. We're going to take up another matter related to that here in a moment. This does preserve the responsibilities and rights of Novair to maintain the stormwater infrastructure associated with their development and does not provide for any new responsibilities or costs associated with anything associated with that development. It is just simply acquisition of the Greenway Trail at no cost to the city and maintenance opportunities, provisions associated with it. There was a question at the work session about the potential tax revenues associated with 4.5 acres generally of undeveloped property. I did provide that additional information in my updated memo, and just doing as best I can at something short of an appraised valuation of the property, anywhere from $8 to $800 a year in tax revenues associated with it. So that is the difference in what that means. I'm sure there might be some expectations about maintenance of the Greenway Trail should we take that route. So the recommendation is still to accept the donation from Sugar Hill Apartments LLC. The second part of it is the right-of-way for Stanley Street. Stanley Street, the actual roadbed was not necessarily built in the center of the old right-of-way. So this just seeks to restore the roadbed in the center of a right-of-way associated with it. And the right-of-way will vary along this route, but does provide adequate width for the city to maintain the Greenway Trail along Stanley, and also provide for the installation of utilities along that roadway as well. And I don't have the acreage in front of me. 0.47 acres is the total of new right-of-way that is being dedicated as a part of this action tonight. So the staff recommendation is to accept the dedication of the green space and the right-of-way associated with Stanley. One thing I did leave out in my presentation is in the Parks, Recreation, and Green Space Plan that we had completed last year, we did at least recognize the standard of establishing 20% of the overall area of the city of Sugar Hill as green space. And so that number works out to be about, I don't have the actual acreage, but our deficit works out to be about 30 acres. So we're 30 acres short of achieving that 20% designation, and this would help us get a little bit closer with the acceptance of this green space.
Thank you, Troy. Any questions of Troy?
So I have a question about the right-of-way on Stanley Street. That road was heavily trafficked during the construction of those apartments. It's the primary entrance in and out, although some of them also have an entrance off of Peachtree Industrial Boulevard. Does this put any obligations on us in regards to the condition of the road or anything like that?
We currently have or will have very shortly a maintenance bond from Novair and Ackerman for maintaining the roadway through here. Eventually, we will accept the maintenance responsibilities for the roadway once the Ackerman commercial component is completed.
And what is the duration of that bond?
30 months. And we will also get another one for Oak Street as well. Two actions, I guess, related to Oak Street. We will have to accept additional right-of-way for Oak Street, and then we will also require a maintenance bond for Oak Street.
Any other questions of Troy at this time? Okay, hearing none, then we will go ahead and entertain a motion for this item before us.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to accept the donations of 4.459 acres of improved green space and 0.477 acres of improved road right-of-way for Stanley Street from Sugar Hill Apartments Residency LLC, and authorize execution of the associated documents.
Okay. Do we have a second? All right, any discussion regarding this item? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor? All right. Our next item on the agenda is the Sweet Spot IGA lease renewal, and once again, I'll recognize Assistant City Manager Troy Basesh.
Okay. We refer to the old City Hall building as the Sweet Spot. It was a designation that has carried on since 2014. Once the city occupied this building, there was about 8,000 square feet of usable space in the downtown. DDA, in cooperation with the City Council, determined that a business incubator would be a good concept for that building. So you'll see in the imagery that that's currently how it's operated and used. There is a combination of membership space, co-work space, and then also individual offices that are available for rent or short-term lease terms, I'll say. And so that's currently how it's used. We're looking at maybe the next generation of uses for the building, and I think in doing so, we recognize that the existing agreement between the city and the DDA had expired, and we needed to renew that agreement if we want to continue its operation. So the recommendation is to renew the lease with the DDA for its operation, and the lease term, I believe we've got in there, is a total of 11 years, but it's built out into increments, so it can be renewed within the language of the agreement.
Thank you, Troy. Any questions of Troy? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and entertain a motion for item number 9 on our agenda.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement for the continued operation of the Sweet Spot, 4988 West Broad Street, also known as Old City Hall, by the DDA as an office building, and authorization for the mayor to sign the documents.
Okay, we have a motion. Second?
Second for discussion.
All right, thank you. At this time, we have a motion before us. Any discussion or debate regarding this item?
The question I have, haven't had a lot of discussion about this item, but we did talk about some potential future uses of it, but those were in a shorter term than this 11-year that's being mentioned here. So that is my question, is really more so about what the duration of the contract should be. 11 years potentially seems a bit long with the discussion we've had. What I heard, or believe I heard mentioned, was more in the term of 6 years. I'd be more interested in a term of 6 years rather than 11 without having any more details. So with that, I'll withdraw this second.
Okay. We have a withdrawn second, so we would need a second to... Troy or Paul, would either one of you like to?
Allow me to start talking, and I'll ask Paul or Lee to jump in at the appropriate time. The way the lease, or excuse me, the agreement was structured, we did take some of the feedback we had gotten on the lease term with a prospective future use that might be somewhere on the order of a 5-year term. Just given the amount of time it might take to make some changes to the space, it was then thought that maybe an additional year would be appropriate to allow for that to take place. None of that is really set yet, so I think without that, we're just simply throwing out a 6 + 5, 5-year renewal. And I think certainly acceptable to shorten it to a 6-year. We can come back and update it at the appropriate time. That would be my quick answer to that question or comment.
And to follow up on Troy's point, it would be, the language, I guess, in the MOU would be for one or multiple tenants in the building. And And the flexibility is to determine how those uses would look down the road, so.
Thank you both. We have a motion before us.
Mayor, I'll modify my motion, if I may.
Please proceed.
I'll go ahead and I'll make a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement for the continued operation of the Sweet Spot, 4988 West Broad Street, Old City Hall, by the DDA as an office building, and authorize the mayor to sign the documents for a period or a term not to exceed 6 years.
All right, we have a motion before us.
Second.
Second. Any discussion or debate on this motion? All those in favor? All right. Our next item on the agenda is the policy for travel, training, and education, and I will go ahead and recognize Councilmember Avery to take us down that agenda item.
Thank you very much. I had brought up the possibility of a travel policy for the city of Sugar Hill at the February council work session, and we've had discussions about that and some revisions to the original proposal. And we also discussed it last week at the work session. One of the main reasons that I'm requesting a travel, education, and training policy is because the 2025 budget allocates $66,200 for travel in all city departments, as well as $64,750 for education and training, which is a total of $130,950. So we did approve these amounts for the 2025 budget, but we're not really totally aware of how these funds are being spent. And I definitely agree that training and classes and certifications, conferences, these are vital for city employees, the mayor and council. We need to keep up to date with the latest news and advances in government procedures and new technology, which is very important. However, we also need to be aware, come this October of 2025, when we start to set next year's budget, what was spent this year and how was it spent? Because we approved that money for the 25 budget, but we really don't have a lot of details. So therefore, a travel policy seemed the next step to take. When I checked with the Georgia Municipal Association, they also had travel guidelines. And what I thought was the most important part of their travel guidelines was when they stated, having a clear and reasonable travel reimbursement policy provides benefits for a municipality. A properly drafted policy demonstrates to the public that a municipal government is using its resources with efficiency and economy and creates an environment of honesty, openness, and integrity. A comprehensive travel policy strengthens a municipality's accountability to the public. Also stated in the GMA guidelines was that having a travel policy enhances the goals of the City of Ethics Initiative, which the City of Sugar Hill does have. We've had discussions in several other issues about transparency, and this will just provide more transparency. When we came to the work session last week, we were presented with a summary of the February 2025 training, certifications, and conferences, as well as a more detailed report of which employee in which department took what class and where and what the benefit was. I was extremely pleased to read this report and know that this is what this travel policy has created, and we will be receiving this monthly report each month, so we're more aware of how we are spending taxpayer dollars in these departments. Currently, the city's procedure is to submit receipts of travel expenses, and this will give us the background of how those expenses were spent. I looked at travel policies for the cities of Brookhaven, Hampton, and Athens-Clarke County, as well as, of course, reviewing the Georgia Municipal Association, and that is how this proposal came about. Basically, this proposal and this policy establishes guidelines for official city business. Of course, travel is contingent upon the availability of funds in the city budget and approved by the appropriate officials, either the city manager or the city council. And the travel, training, and/or education event should be sponsored by a government entity or professional organization, such as the Georgia Municipal Association, Gwinnett Chamber of Commerce, Municipal Gas Authority, Carl Vinson Institute, just to name a few that we already deal with. All city employees, mayor and council, and board members performing governmental functions relating to the city position for the city of Sugar Hill are subject to these provisions. As I stated that we received last week, this comprehensive summary of which employees in which departments completed training or certification or attended a conference. That is the basic of this travel policy. And also another item on the policy is when travel, training, and/or education, which requires a flight out of state, must be either approved by the city council or prior notice given to the council at least 2 to 4 weeks in advance. Airfare for a basic, economy, or main seat on a flight will be paid for by the city. The additional expense of either comfort, business, or first class will be the responsibility of the employee. And the department heads providing a report to the city manager. In this case, city employees submitted the reports, and Victoria Richburg in our marketing department pulled it together for the report that was given to us last Tuesday. In this report, it's just the employees, for the full-time employees at City Hall. Also required with the travel policy is that the city manager, assistant city manager, city clerk, mayor, and council members will also be responsible for providing a travel summary as part of their monthly council report. And the mayor and council must be informed of anyone who attends a training education session and what certificate was earned. So we will now be getting monthly reports of what's going on with travel, training, and education. I was very pleased to read the report last Monday and to know that our employees are taking advantage of very important and worthwhile conferences and workshops. So it makes me feel better to know exactly where our tax dollars are going. So I present the travel, training, and education policy to hopefully be adopted tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Avery. Any questions for Councilmember Avery on this topic? Okay, hearing none, then we will go ahead and entertain a motion.
I make a motion to accept the policy for travel, training, and education as proposed.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any debate or discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion before us? All right, thank you so much. Okay, we will go into our final public hearing of the night, which is RZ 25-001-5343 Sycamore Road, and I will go ahead and recognize our planning director, Art.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good evening again, Mr. Mayor and Council. The City of Sugar Hill received an application dated December 3rd, 2024 from Kittle Homes to rezone the subject properties from RS 100 and HM1 to R36 for attached single-family residences. A bit of a background, the owner applicant is Kittle Homes, care of Zach Kittle, Whitehead Road Investments, LLC, and Victoria Capital Investments, LLC, Jaddy Dodd and Joyce Dodd. The existing zoning are both RS 100 and HM1 located within the town center overlay, and the request is to rezone to R36 within the town center overlay for the purpose of 73 attached single-family residences on 14.913 acres more or less, located at 5243 Sycamore Road, various parcels. For the public notices, letters were sent to the adjacent property owners via USPS on 12/19 and 1/28. the sign posting at 5243 Sycamore Road on 12/2024 and 1/28/2025, and an ad in the legal section of the Gwinnett Daily Post, 12/15/24 and 1/28/25. Just a bit of a note, when we had I believe the first snow event, we had to, second snow event actually, cancel that meeting and reschedule. The staff did receive one email dated 12/23/24 expressing concern about traffic at the intersection of Sycamore Road and Highway 20, and we'll have more on that in a moment. The subject parcel is located at the corner of Sycamore Road and Appling Road, and the subject parcels are between established single-family subdivisions along Sycamore Road and Appling Road, and new developments located along Highway 20 within the downtown core. The proposed development would be in close proximity to downtown Sugar Hill and would connect to an existing sidewalk network. The subject parcels total 14.913 acres, and the proposed development consists of 73 single-family attached units. The total density of the project would be 4.89 units per acre. The maximum density for R36 is 8 units an acre. The subject parcels are located within the town center overlay. The town center overlay was created to enhance opportunities for pedestrian connectivity and to ensure cohesive aesthetic and architectural standards within the town center. The project would require design review board approval from the City Council should the parcels be rezoned and the applicant move forward with the project. The proposed project would serve as a transition of uses between established neighborhoods off Sycamore Road and Appling Road and the commercial and higher density residential projects in the downtown core. Homes are proposed to range from 1,700 to 2,800 square feet, all featuring a 2-car garage. The interior streets include front entry units, while the units facing Sycamore Road and Appling Road are rear entry with front facades facing towards the roads. A total of 6 on-street parking spaces are proposed, situated along the mail kiosk. A stream runs along the rear to the east of the property with associated buffers. 6-foot sidewalks are proposed throughout the development. These sidewalks will also run along the exterior of the property and connect to the existing sidewalk network. The pedestrian infrastructure, existing and proposed, would connect future residents to downtown Sugar Hill amenities and the Greenway. A 20-foot landscape strip is proposed along all other properties not requiring zoning buffer, which are the MH and HM1 zonings. The applicant has requested several variances in conjunction with the rezoning. The 30-foot required building setback along Appling Road would be reduced to 10 feet. The 50-foot undisturbed buffer along parcels R7, 306, 65A, and 66 to be reduced to 25-foot undisturbed buffer and a 25-foot graded and replanted buffer. Stopping there for a moment, again, the buffer amount would remain the same of 50 feet. The type of the buffer would be amended to having 25 feet of undisturbed buffer. The other 25 feet would be graded, but then replanted with a landscaping material, which oftentimes is going to give a much better aesthetic and visual buffer. The front setbacks are to be a minimum of 15 feet for the front entry garages and 0 feet for the rear entry units. And the rear setbacks to be a minimum of 15 feet for front entry units and 5 feet for rear entry units. There would be an encroachment into the stream buffer. However, as a utility connection, this would be exempt from requiring stream buffer variance. February 17th, 2025, the Planning Commission held a public hearing and recommendation. The Planning Commission held a scheduled meeting Monday, February 17, 2025, and the hearing was open. There was representation from both the applicant, who represented the application, spoke in favor. There was some citizen comment that spoke in opposition to the request as well. There was additional discussion amongst members of the Planning Commission. There was one member of the Planning Commission who was absent that evening. After additional discussion, there was a vote of 2-2, so there was no official recommendation coming to the City Council from the Planning Commission. Staff's recommended action is approval of the request to rezone with the following conditions. Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to read those 10, or if you like, I don't know if you want me to do all that. I can quickly go through them.
We have them in front of us,
Okay.
so let's spare us.
All right. So I'll just go over just quickly here. You can see on the zoning map, the majority of the property, which is outlined in a teal color, is zoned HM1, which is in the dark purple color, with some of the property being zoned RS 100. And you can see the adjacent zonings to the subject parcels. Here is a site plan showing the proposal. I'll draw your attention to what would be the northwest corner. The properties that are fronting along Appling and Sycamore would be rear entry units. Those are the units that the setback request is requested to go to 10 feet, but that would be a much more visual effect there. Another image of the site plan. And the next several slides are renderings of the proposed townhouse units. And again, the units that are shown highlighted in yellow are the units that are rear entry. And here you can see the typical layouts for both the front entry and the rear entry units. And again, the staff recommendations. Staff does recommend approval of the requests with these conditions. And again, the Planning Commission had a 2-2 tie vote, so there was no formal recommendation coming out of the Planning Commission to Council. And that is all the staff has, and we're happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
Thank you, Art. Any questions of the planning department at this time? Okay. We will go ahead and open it up to the public hearing portion of this meeting. As I've stated before, there'll be 10 minutes allocated to each side. We'll go ahead and ask the developers, applicants to come up first if they want to speak in favor of their project, and then any other remaining time for those who would like to speak in favor of this project. We'll see how much time we have left. All right, and if you just want to state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is John Costantino, and my address is 350 Tallahassee Farms Drive in Athens. Thank you all for having us. I'm here on behalf of Kittle Homes. Thank you, Planning Department, for a great send-in. I just wanted to talk to you briefly about the project and the impact on the neighborhood. As was explained, the lion's share of this property is going to be in HM1 that they're seeking to convert to R36. With regards to the portions that were presently RS 100, I think that the change in character and density is going to be minimal. Both these zones were set up with the intentions of promoting economy and convenience, and so they are similarly designed. I think that the slight increase in density between the zones, the maximum in RM 100 being 3.7, this is going to be 4.89, so it's a modest increase on what amounts to a very small percentage of it. The bulk of the 14 acres is consisting of HM1 heavy manufacturing, which in many city centers would be considered one of the less desirable zoning districts. By right uses as of today on the property include things like adult entertainment facilities, auto repair, sales or inspections, gas stations, banks, shopping centers, warehouse stores, lots of big commercial uses. And so that sort of leads me into the elephant in the room with regards to this project and most development projects that you come across these days, and that's going to be traffic and congestion in the area. And though certainly will increase traffic as compared to a vacant lot, I think compared to the available uses under its current zoning, that the R36 is much preferable. As I mentioned earlier, permitted uses in HM1 include things like office buildings and warehouse stores, which, according to our traffic calculations, would be as much as tenfold the average trip hours at peak hours. According to the Institute of Transportation Engineers figures that we used, the Kittle project would be approximately 54 to 72 peak hour trips on any given weekday. But if you compare that to, say, a warehouse store like a Lowe's or a Home Depot, that's going to be closer to 250 peak trips per hour. A shopping center of 50,000 square feet, that's going to be closer to 400. So in terms of traffic and density, I think that at worst this would be a lateral move, but I think that overall it would considerably reduce congestion and overall fit in with the character of the area. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to Kittle Brothers here shortly. I just wanted to sum it up that in terms of your standards for consideration, that the rezone requested would permit a use that's suitable in view of the use and development of adjacent nearby properties. It's as the department pointed out, it creates a smooth transition of density between the residential areas and the commercial areas. It contributes to a walking community with reservation of considerable green space, all things considered, and in my opinion would be a perfect example of growing smart, as the city of Sugar Hill has done such a good job doing in the past 5 years. And so let me turn it over to Zach Taylor.
Thank you. Lee, what's our time right now?
6.5 minutes.
Okay.
So I got 4 minutes. Is that right?
6.
Well, I got 6 minutes. Okay, all right, cool. All right, that's good. My name's Zach Kittle. I got a house at 330 Sugarview. I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight. As John said, we were looking to rezone the property from where it is right now to 73 townhomes. Me and my brother, we're the owners of the company. We're a family-owned company, nothing corporate. So we're here. We're local guys. We try and do what's right for the cities. Right now, we're actually doing the townhomes down the street for the 25 luxury townhomes that are 4 stories. So we're doing a very similar product here. As you can see with our plans, we're taking the rooftop off of it, just doing 3 stories. Still going to be 3 to 4 bedrooms, 3 to 4.5 baths. I think you could be from 2,000 to 2,600 square feet is what it's going to end up being for those townhomes. The way we're doing it is having brick in the front, and we're going to do some vertical siding on the sides and on the back, but still keep that brick going around it, which looks really good. We've actually won the award for the best townhomes in Atlanta past 2 years for some of our products, all of our products that we've done townhome-wise. So we try and build a good product, and I think we do that by our peers voting on us and winning those. So we want to keep that same standard here for sure. The main thing here with this neighborhood is really density. We're trying to keep this at less than 5 units per acre. I know most townhome subdivisions are 10 to 12 units per acre. We're trying to keep it half that at 5 or below. And so I think that's very much possible with the green space we have on the site. Variances, just to go over the variances, I know Art did, but really we're just asking for the grading buffer over there behind those units. It's going to help the flow of watershed on the backside there. Also, I want to replant because I don't want our neighbors to see us and we don't want to see them, so it's beneficial to both parties there. The other is going to be the one on Appling, and it's going to be very similar to our ones that we did over at Hillcrest here, where you come straight out from your porch, and then you have your sidewalk, and then you have your road where you can walk down with those units. Of course, we'll have landscaping very similar to what we did over there. This has worked very well. These have sold and done very well over there, so very similar design for that, so we would hope that we grant those 2 buffers for sure. I think this is a great transitional neighborhood from the apartments that you have to the commercial up front to the mobile homes that you have in the back. So I think this is the perfect transition product that we have. The best feature finally about this neighborhood is the ability to walk downtown. We have a new $7 million bridge we're building. Let's use it. I highly think that would be great I could see families walking down. You know, we plan on pricing these units between 500 and 600,000. You know, that's going to be a little bit different price range than what we're used to over here. It's going to be more second home for families, maybe not a starter home, but second home. Families that are millennials that have their first kid and want to walk to downtown, be able to enjoy the restaurants and everything that we have down here. I can see everybody walking to the neighborhood, from the neighborhood to the dinner and concerts. Also, this would help traffic from downtown area, because now everybody's parking over at their townhome, getting in their, walking with their baby stroller down the street and being able to come right over here. I think that'd be a very good thing. The two things that I would like for you guys to consider on the conditions from the city. We have 3 gas units per lot. I would just ask to reduce that down to 2, where you have a hot water heater that's tankless, so a tankless hot water heater will be gas powered, and a stove. The only other option you could have would be to do a gas furnace. Gas furnaces are usually bigger. With townhomes, with the way the plans are, we just need to make sure that fits. I'm more than happy to do it if it fits. If not, I just want to make sure I have that availability not to, compared to an electric. So at least 2 there. The other one was the rental restrictions on the property. I'm fine doing rental restrictions. Just the way it was worded from the planning commission or planning department, we just need to define it a little bit better. I think it's overlapping 2 of them. So it needs to be either 20% rental restriction, which I'm totally fine with, no problem, or have it, I think the better way, where only one owner or entity could own 2 units. That gives a little bit more flexibility if you're an owner. That way you're not forced to sell if you have a rental cap immediately. Most people like to sell in the spring and summer, so it kind of makes it a little bit easier for homeowners. I know me and my wife had a townhome where we moved to a different place, and we had to sell because there was a rental cap, and if we could have held on for another 6 more months, it might have been more beneficial to us, just for timing wise. So one or the other, just there, I don't care either one. It's your guys' decision. I'm more than happy to answer any questions on it, but I think this is a great neighborhood. We put out a great product, and we look forward to working with the city and all you guys here. Do you have any questions for me? No? Oh, wow. That's the first. Thank you.
Thank you. How much time do we have left, Lee? All right, is there anyone else wanting to speak in favor of this project at this time?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nick Thompson, 117 Timber Lost Trail in Swanee. Here to speak in support this evening. My wife and I are mom and pop investors, and we own the property shown in blue, which is kind of right across the street from the subject property that intersects with Sycamore and Appling. RS 36, relatively new ordinance to the books. I think that when it was drafted by CAIPO, it was for a situation like this. It's a little bit less intense than things you guys have seen of late. Market, a little bit was spoken about that at the Planning Commission. Clearly, they're doing very well here at a higher price point. Smith Douglas is at a lower price point across from the animal hospital, and what Zach had described as somewhere right in between. Both neighborhoods have done really well. No reason to think that this one won't do extremely well as well. The existing zoning is going to be worse for traffic. I spent a lot of time over there, trips per day, but just one 18-wheeler coming out of a light manufacturing climate will do more for traffic stacking, turning left on Sycamore than dense townhomes would. Lastly, walkability. Zach touched on it. To me, I think 2 of the biggest job creators that will be downtown in Northside and Lidl. Truly walkable. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we'll open it up to anyone who would like to speak in opposition, and then the timer will restart, so we have a full 10 minutes on the clock. Anyone willing to or wanting to speak in opposition to this project? And just remember, state your name and address for the record.
Amber Chambers, 809 Whitehead Road. So I'm not totally opposed to townhomes here. I'm opposed to these townhomes. I'm opposed to this developer. As far as just the townhome development itself, traffic is a consideration. I don't like some of the variances. I'm a little concerned that reducing the setback for some of those that are facing out on Sycamore sort of reduces some of Gwinnett County's options should they decide to change Sycamore to address the traffic situation, which I'm hearing a lot about from different people. So I don't like the variances. He's got the one that he kind of explains around those two houses. He's not really explaining why he wants any of these setback reductions. It looks to me like it's just for the purpose of increasing density. Also not liking just the style of the units. I think these things look really plain, really dull. There is a thing in our zoning ordinance about unique character. It was in there when he did Skyview on Broad as well. There's also a modulation requirement. He didn't adhere to those. I know he didn't adhere to the modulation requirement with Skyview. It doesn't look like in these renderings he plans on adhering to any of that for this current one. And here, not only would it be in our zoning ordinance, it's also listed as two of the conditions. And if we couldn't hold him to our zoning ordinance, how are we going to hold him to the conditions? No one has ever answered that. And that goes to my final biggest problem. I don't feel like we have had an honest, thorough discussion here. First of all, it is required in our packet that when you write a letter of intent to the city, you tell what the price of the units is. I don't work here. I've never gotten a City of Sugar Hill paycheck, but I know this requirement. I feel like the people who do work here and collect a check should know that. I feel like, and I'm not blaming the planning department, I think this goes a little higher up because it's been a problem on several cases recently. I think that people know that that's a sticking point for the public, and so we kind of just let the guy sort of gloss on past that. Now he's saying 500 to 600. During his planning commission hearing, he said 600. I have that on tape. At no point did he say 500. He's changing the story now because he knows it's unpopular. I don't like that. Just the regulations we haven't asked him to do, it's not really good. I don't think we're talking enough. Also, he keeps trying to pass off this 4.89 density. There's a lot of that parcel that you really can't, or property that you really can't build out because of the stream. It's got a weird parcel down at the bottom that's shaped like a triangle that I imagine he's being asked to buy if he wants to buy the rest of it, but he doesn't know what to do with it. And so, you know, if you take out all of that and then calculate the density, he's pretty close to your max. And we've not challenged him on that. I've challenged him on that in Real Deal Sugar Hill, but no one else has. And I think we need to, like, maybe if you think you want to pass it, pump the brakes, force the guy to come up here with some real answers and some real talk. Y'all engage in some real talk, and let's really talk about whether this is a good thing. Also, while I'm thinking of another dishonest thing, he goes straight to this adult entertainment establishment thing. I think the TCO actually prohibits adult entertainment establishments, so I think that he wouldn't be able to do that anyway. Also, we're talking about this property. Some of it has been sitting there under the same owner since 1995. They've not made a move to do anything with that HM1, adult entertainment or otherwise. It's just sitting there. So why are we now all of a sudden so concerned that it's going to go to the worst possible use? Like, this makes no sense. Let's stop and think about it or just deny it outright. We should be attracting the best, most honest people here, not the people with a slick story.
Thank you. What's our time left, Lee?
5 minutes and 56.
Okay. We still do have some more time for anyone who's wanting to speak in opposition.
Good evening. Andrew Schultz, 5350 Windswept Trace, Sugar Hill. I raced up here the other night before the Planning Commission meeting, having found out that there was something on the agenda. The signs had blown down. There was a whole bunch of things. Art tried to fix all that as best he could when he could. But everything seemed to go really quickly, and I was kind of shocked about that. That piece of property, like Amber said, has been sitting there for so long. The owner of the property was up here and said he'd like to get rid of it because of his property tax being so high, and I can't even imagine what it is, especially the way property taxes have been going here lately. I've heard people say it's the best use for that land. I'm like, really? Well, that's news to me. The downtown development overlay, great thing. Well, it backed right up to our subdivision, and we ended up with 81 townhomes shoved in there. We've got a whole set of property over here that used to be the cabinet shop that is fixing to have something done. I keep hearing about Liddell or Idell or however you say that. We just got a vacant lot with no trees on it. We're supposed to get the hospital over there. Ain't happening. Everyone's kind of pumping the brakes on everything. And $600,000, yes, you heard that right. That's what we were told during the planning commission. The other night, everyone couldn't figure out what the price was. It's too much. The property value, the density, again, in Vision 101 or 100, here we go. What did your public say? They were sick of it. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Lee, how much time we have left?
3 minutes and 56 seconds.
Okay, all right.
Hello, you guys. My name is Kaylee Weiland, Sugar Hill resident at 5623 Riverside Walk Drive. Before I get to my points, I just wanted to point out that 330 Sugarview was purchased by ZK Homes on May 2024. The address of the primary agent is 412 Seagroves Drive in Athens. My grandmother brought me up in Sugar Hill. I made Sugar Hill my own place of residence in 2014, and in 2021, my husband and I bought our first home here in Sugar Hill. We chose Sugar Hill because of the history, its potential for growth, and because of its location and accessibility. We have cheered on advancements like the East Center, city murals, festivals, community events, and improvements to the Veterans Memorial and Cemetery. However, over time, our city has become increasingly difficult for commuters. More than 50% of Sugar Hill residents work outside of the city limits. Those that don't need to travel outside of the city for daily activities. Our city has not addressed the additional load to our infrastructure, but instead we're discussing additional residents. On Riverside Road, we plan on having a power outage with each storm. Yes, the power companies and the counties are involved in these decisions, but it's up to our city to advocate for us as residents to ensure that we have the utilities needed. In comparison, the suggestion of adding additional medium to high density housing without adding support to the current roads, utilities, and commodities is harmful to those of us that are already investing in Sugar Hill. I work remotely, but I take my daughter to preschool Monday through Friday and sit on Sycamore waiting to turn left on Highway 20 every morning. The wait can vary anywhere between 10 to upwards of 25 minutes. This happens again when the school lets out in the afternoon. This timeline is not a unique experience. Commercial businesses have business hours, occupancy limits, and abide by business ordinances. Residences use roadways during peak hours. Additionally, Lidl has no obligation to petition for improvements to the intersection in the future. Someone will get hurt before further improvements are made unless we address this right now. I would like to be clear on one point before I go. Low-income housing is not synonymous with crime. Most crime occurs when the needs of the community members are not met, and they are forced to reach outwardly. The effects of this need can also be generational and not immediately apparent. In Sugar Hill, we are blessed to have the resources that allow us to provide for our community. Let's use these resources towards uplifting the current residents instead of adding an additional load to our infrastructure and the division that will come along with this decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Lee, how much time do we have left? 54 seconds left in the opposition. If anyone would like to come up here. Mr. January.
Good evening. James January, 1282 Frontier Drive. I'm going to be brief, obviously. A lot of points have already been made by others here. The issue is traffic. I think it's pretty obvious that at some point in time, Sycamore has to be widened. Okay, and I think that needs to be taken into consideration specifically with this project when it comes to the setbacks on some of these units, as Ms. Chambers also has already mentioned. The other thing I have is a concern, again, about setbacks and variances on setbacks and buffers. Again, that applies specifically to this particular project, but it also applies in general. I have expressed numerous times my concern about our, if you will, disregard for buffers in our codes where buffers are required. I think ultimately that's going to come back to bite us because we're not going to be able to enforce our buffers when we want to. And the third thing is appearance. Just to be very honest, for $600,000, my personal opinion, these are ugly.
Thank you, Mr. January. All right. At this time, both the sides, 10 minutes on both sides have been exhausted. So unless anyone on council wants to extend the time for both sides, we will close public hearing. Okay. I have a question. Do I have to wait prior to motion? Okay, I have a question for either Art or Troy. In regards to Sycamore, is that a county maintained or city
County
maintained?
maintained.
County maintained. I mean, do we know of any plans of them wanting to widen or anything like that?
No.
Okay. I know Councilmember Anderson had forwarded us an email earlier in the week, and we had looked at Hillcrest in the past regarding, I forgot the technical language, the lights clearing, and I'm not sure if you want to speak to that a little bit, but I don't believe the county has great records on that, but I have been a victim of the Sycamore light as well, so.
Yeah, so I check in with Gwinnett County DOT about Sycamore and Hillcrest, asking them, they have technology that determines whether a light clears on those side streets during the peak hours, and I think it's called a signal fault, but they did inform me, the county did inform me that that technology was broken on the Sycamore Street, but they did send a person out there to monitor the traffic at our request. And they had noticed at least that morning, I don't know how many mornings they went out, but at that morning there was not an issue at Sycamore during the left turn. In other words, that the left turn cleared during each light cycle. So that's what DOT told us, and I forwarded that information to you. If council looked favorably upon this, I told DOT that one thing that I would like to see the developer do is to double the length of the existing left turn lane from Sycamore onto Highway 20 to add some additional queuing length at that location. That would be something that would be obviously subject to DOT approval since it's not our street, but that would be for sure a recommendation that I would make if council is looking favorably upon this.
I'd like to add some comments. The first which is precedent. This is on Sycamore Road. There's no townhouses anywhere on Sycamore Road, so we're obviously setting a precedent if we choose to go that direction. The second is transition. It was mentioned that this will be a transition zoning. The first townhomes zone in Sugar Hill, to my recollection, were also presented as a transition zoning on Westbrook Road. They were off Beaufort Highway. There was a zoning there for a shopping center in the front. And the residents on Westbrook Road came to us and said, hey, we'd like to see these townhomes approved as a transitional zoning between us and them. It was approved, townhomes went in, and the shopping center never developed. And so then they asked about townhomes on that property. I think it may be something like office condos that are there now. But certainly I'm opposed to setting transitions where there is no development already there, because I've seen that certainly can fail, and there may be no merit to it, and then you're setting a transition by what you were using as a transition is now pushing a higher density up to the front. Last thing to mention is I heard a number thrown out of something like 52 trips an hour generated from this development during peak. That's less than one per unit. There's 73 units. There's just absolutely no way that's a valid number. So traffic, again, I think is also a concern in the area based on the outlet of where it is adjacent to the intersection there with Highway 20.
Yeah, perfect. Any other comment? Go ahead, Meg.
I do have a question either for Art or Zach Kittle. I'd like to know, because I was also looking at the site plan, of the 14 acres that these parcels encompass, how many are actually being developed for the 73 units? That's one of my questions.
I don't have the exact figure on me. I know we have almost like 10 acres of open space on it. So I don't know the exact, because if you pull it up, Art, you think? But I don't know what you're considering. I mean, because you're going to have a stormwater, you got a stormwater system. So is that considered part of the development, or is that going to be considered open space, what we're talking about? Because I know what you're trying to get at is like, how many acres are we actually putting how many units on?
Correct.
Right, but there's no way to really look at that because you still have structures on site that you would have to have for the stormwater or the sewer that you're running through and everything there. But I know you have about 10 acres, I think it's roughly about 10 acres of open space on the site when it's all said and done. Of course, you got the houses and the driveways, and then between the buildings would be open space. So I don't really know how you calculate it any other way than what we did as a unit per acre for the whole site overall. Because you are buying the whole site. We're buying the whole site overall, and that's how many units per acre. So we're trying to stay, right around less than 5, make it work.
I would also like to get verbal confirmation, although I believe I know the answer, but this is something I was asked this weekend. Please confirm verbally there is one entrance and exit for all the owners of these townhomes that they will be using Sycamore exclusively, correct?
That's correct, yeah. Per the DOT, you only have to have one entrance for 75 houses or less.
Right.
We
And
fit in
then-
under that, conforming.
Right, that's what I thought. Thank you very much for confirming that.
No problem.
And then the other question I did have was about the traffic. And I tend to agree that the residential will increase the traffic. With the price of these townhomes, you're talking about 2 career people living in each home.
So you do your calculation, I know Gary brought it up, of like, oh, it's 73 townhomes and we're only saying 54 cars. It's at peak hours. So peak hours, 54 cars, it's calculated less than a car per hour because some people work from home. Exactly, high-end professionals work from home. Many days I don't go into work, I stay in my home office and don't leave. So that's what you're going to have in this neighborhood. That's what you're going to see. That's why you only calculate 54. So it's not one-to-one for that, for sure. But if you left it the way it is with the high industrial, then it does create more traffic, depending on what exactly goes there. But usually any commercial space is going to create double, if not triple the traffic of what it is. I just had a zoning in Loganville doing the same thing, talking about how much commercial is over residential. So very similar. No problem, thank you. More?
I just have one final comment, I think, not for you, Zach. In regards to this particular parcel, I did bring it up at the work session last week, and whatever the will of the council is tonight, when we look at this assemblage of parcels and we look at usage and we look at what it's currently zoned and what the potential for highest and best use is, I do think that some sort of townhome product, whatever that might be, is going to be what majority of this land is going to be favored towards development, even though it is zoned HM1, and that's just my personal opinion. But as we talk about prices and drivers and everything, there's going to be a concession that council is going to have to make when we look at how many units per acre, regardless of how we're calculating this for any project. Of the higher the price that the developer's asking, we might be able to see lower per unit on an acre. But if we're trying to achieve something that is a lower cost per unit, then of course the concession is more than likely going to be some sort of higher density. So it's a catch-22 almost. So just food for thought there. And like I said, that's whatever the council wants to do tonight, but just thought I'd throw that in there. So, yeah.
I'd kind of like to follow on what you just said, Mayor, and that is, it's too bad that our youth council didn't get to go to National League of Cities today, because the vice president was speaking today at the National League of Cities, and he actually was talking specifically about affordability and the role that both the local government and the federal government plays in that. And he touched on some of the federal government policies that he felt were leading to the affordability crisis that we have in our country, but he was also talking about the local, and he specifically talked about the zoning process that we put people through, and the reason that we are not seeing prices come down in our residential is in part or in large part due to the way we do our zoning process, the way we do our regulatory process. And the vice president even went so far as to name several cities that he felt were implementing policies that were tackling tackling the affordability crisis that we face. And one of those was Austin, and I thought that was rather interesting. Austin has significantly reduced its zoning process and its streamlined its permitting process, thereby allowing residential units to come to market quicker and in a more and in a larger number. And I think that we can talk a lot about affordability, but so long as we continue to artificially restrict what the market wants to deliver to the community, and this is not just true of Sugar Hill, it's true of everywhere, but we're here in Sugar Hill. And so long as we continue to restrict that, the desires of the free market, which is what we do up here, then we do pay the price in affordability. That is the trade-off. Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, at this time, we will go ahead and entertain a motion regarding this agenda item before us.
Well, Mayor, I make a motion to deny.
Okay, we have a motion before us. Do we have a second? All right. Any discussion or debate regarding the motion before us? Okay, at this time, I will go ahead and ask for all those in favor of the motion of denial for this agenda item. Okay. And at this time, I'll go ahead and ask for those opposed. 2 to 2. In this case, since I'm filling in for Mayor Hembree, would I be the discasting tie vote? I will do a vote in the affirmative for this one, for denial. Okay. City Manager, is there a need for executive session?
One real estate matter.
Okay. Then we'll go ahead and entertain a motion for us to go into executive session for one real estate matter.
Motion to enter executive session for real estate.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor? All right, it's unanimous.